another edition of Dark Shadow Ghost Tours After Tour. I'm Mary Ann.
And my name's Mike, and it's edition 2015.
And I'm Sean. Let's try this again. I'm Sean.
I'm Mike.
I'm Mary Ann.
We'll edit that in the end. Probably not. Well, we're coming to you live from Gettysburg. We're actually in the dining room area of the place that we're staying, which is actually 1900s farmhouse that we're staying out here for a week, and we got some fun planned. We actually did a few things that we're going to talk about tonight. If you've been to Gettysburg before, you know it's rich in history. If you're a paranormal investigator and you've been here, you know this is like the holy grail places to go. Let's start out with yesterday. It was our first day on our way here. We left Ohio and headed out here to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We had a lot of fun on the way. I mean, Dark Shadows crew gets together. It's always fun. Had a little road bump along the way, so we want to give a shout out to Mr. Tire in Irwin, Pennsylvania for hooking us up. Had a little picnic along the side of the road. And
we sure did. That
was lunch, and we got things going and kept on trucking. So we got here last night and got all settled in. We got the whole crew here. We got Laura's here, and Lee's here, and Andrew's here, and Kay's here. They're all helping us out a little bit with the production. Then last night we went out and did a little bit of investigating at one of the local spots that a lot of people go to, but we'll talk about that right now, actually. What we're talking about is the Sach Bridge. What did you guys think about the bridge last night?
Mike?
Good spot, bad spot, mediocre.
It's a great spot, but you got to remember that you are not alone there. It's a public place, and
lots of locals.
Oh yes, a lot of college kids out there. So it's busy, it's noisy, and
not really a good place to try to go and do a quiet EVP session.
Now, you and I had come on here 2 years ago, and we went to Sach Bridge one night, and it was very quiet. I mean, we had people that came by a couple of times, but last night there were just a ton of people out.
Last night it was nice out though. It was a gorgeous evening. What was it, 80-something degrees?
86. 86.
But when we were here a couple years ago, it wasn't raining.
It was raining that night. You're right.
So, you know,
could have something to do with it.
Maybe go out in the rain. That might help. But if you do some searching, especially on YouTube, about Sach Bridge, some of the paranormal activity, you're going to come across the video that another paranormal team, I believe they're from Gettysburg. Actually, I know they're from Gettysburg because we ran into them last night. But they filmed this the video, and there's some questionable comments about the video, and you know whether it's true the phenomenon that happens, or you know, you get that back and forth with paranormal groups, all that type of stuff. So we thought, okay, there's something fun to do. Doesn't cost anything. Be a great night out. First night here. Let's go to the bridge and see if we can duplicate what they did on the video. Mike, do you want to? I set it up there a little bit. Do you want to explain a little bit more what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. We on this video from this group, there's a handrail on the end of the bridge, and a soldier supposedly from the Tennessee Volunteers will smoke a cigarette. And when he's done smoking the cigarette, well, as he's smoking, he will move and rotate the cigarette and then eventually knock it off. Well, we wanted to try to duplicate this. So we set up the camera and focused it on there and tried to go step by step. And we were able to duplicate the video that they have online. And it was good, but the only real conclusion that we could get from it, I believe, is you could tell that the cigarette was being drawn as far as any movement of the cigarette and it actually being knocked off the pipe or flicked off the pipe or falling off the pipe. That's all open to debate, and we've been talking about coming up with some creative ways to possibly
test those things.
And
we had a little powwow meeting about an hour ago, actually. And it actually was a pretty good debate. We had some good discussion, and I think we may be going back to try it again. But we did it twice.
Yes.
And got the same results on the drawing of the cigarette. And everyone's probably saying, well, we want to see this video. You're going to, but not tonight, because we have limited internet, and we'll be posting this stuff when we get back to Ohio, a little bit higher speed internet. And you'll be able to see this video and post your comments. That's what this is all about, is going out and collecting stuff and sharing it with other people, and let's see what you think about it. Sachs Bridge, though, if you don't know anything about it, I'm going to turn it over to our residential skeptic and tour guide, Marianne, to give you a little bit of history about Sachs Bridge.
Okay. Well, the Sachs Bridge was a bridge that when the Confederates were retreating, they crossed over that bridge, and they had found that they had some individuals in their company who were not quite trustworthy, and I know they weren't quite trustworthy, and so they actually hanged them. So they hung them from the one end of the Sachs Bridge rafters, and some of the paranormal claims are that they can be seen hanging in pictures from time to time, or that you see some movement in pictures, mists, things like that.
I think Miss Laura caught a picture with maybe potential ectoplasm on the bridge.
Okay, yeah, so those are some of the things that there are for the bridge itself. There's some other things. I remember a couple of things from when we were here a couple of years ago. A lady in white, a misty lady, mists and things like that along the path from their retreat onto the bridge, and some of the waters under the bridge being a reason for that paranormal activity. One, because it's water, but also because when they were dying, they would leave them aside. They'd, leave body parts that they had amputated, things like that, in the river. So that all ties together and puts a little bit more perspective.
When you hear all this stuff and you're into paranormal investigation, you have to go out there. It has to be, a stop that you go to. I think when I told these guys, I want to go to the bridge, they were, bridge, okay. Well, once we got there, we did a few things and went over some of the history and stuff. But getting back to what we originally said, it was packed. And what time were we out there?
We went out there around 10 last night. We got back here at about 11:30.
When we were leaving, there were droves of people coming down there. They were coming from both sides. People were on the bridge the whole time we were there.
Yes. You can hear lots of giggling and laughing from some of the teenage age group that were there. But you also had others they were doing SB7 responses. Yes. There was somebody else on the bridge taking pictures. Yep. I'm not sure if the other group that was there was doing video. Of course, we did video. We did EVP sessions. Not extremely able to get a lot with the EVPs, because there was so much background contamination, last night. But
so based on our debate, we're probably going to go back before we leave and see if we can get it happen again and try a couple things.
Sachs Bridge.
Do you have a debunk report for the Sachs Bridge?
I think my debunk would pretty much not be very good for that one. I mean, the cigarette thing, we've been sitting trying to debunk that pretty much for a couple hours. Some of the team and I have been really looking at that video footage a lot. But nothing definite yet. We still have more debate to look at. And we want to, again, go back and try to test a couple more things with it before we make a final decision. But as far as anything else, that all the contamination background noise, it's going to make it a little more difficult to debunk sounds in this one. Pictures, we'll still have to take a look at them.
Right. Now, this is our second edition of AfterTour, so if you didn't catch the first one and don't know how this is working, you can be a part of this. What we want you to do is, if you hear us talking about anything, have any questions, anything at all, please comment either on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, or on Google Plus. We're monitoring all three of those. And at the end of the show here, we're going to try to keep it to about an hour.
We're going to try better at that this time.
Yeah, we got an official timekeeper back there.
Yes, we do.
So we're going to try to keep it to about an hour. And at the end of the show, we'll answer any questions that you have. So that kind of wraps up Sachs Bridge. Absolutely. Go ahead.
That is what makes a good investigation. What we were talking about. That's the difference between a ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator or investigative team. A ghost hunter would have walked in there, seen that, recreated the video, and been ecstatic, and they'd have been posting that video all over the place about the cigarette getting flicked off, the cigarette being spun around and turned and everything on the top of that piece of pipe. But as a true investigative team, we look at that there and we go through and we agree on what you can't explain away, like the drawing of the cigarette. But the spinning, that's up for debate. The flicking it off, that's up for debate. And that's something that, we are going to go back and research and try to investigate it a little bit further, which is why you don't see us posting something out there going, wow, look what we got. And
especially not immediately. We really want to look.
That's what a lot of times too. Like the last show too. We're not going to post the evidence immediately. We want to go over it, try to debunk what we recorded. Look at the pictures. Have other team members look at the pictures, and then if it's in question that we can't say, oh yeah, that's this or that's that, we'll post that evidence and say, hey, what do you think? Because if it can't be explained, it's
paranormal.
Exactly. So here's what we're going to do right now, folks. This is a live show. So we're going to take a quick little break, probably about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and tell you a little bit about what we did today with the couple cemeteries that we went to. So
I love cemeteries.
Of course you do. All right, so we'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes. So stay tuned. If you have questions, please post them in the comments.
Yes.
All righty, and we're back with Dark Shadow Ghost Tours AfterTour from Gettysburg. We're talking about the Sachs Bridge, National Cemetery, and Evergreen Cemetery on this edition. Again, please, if you have any questions about Gettysburg, about what we're talking about on this episode, please give us a comment, ask your questions. We'll try to get to them at the end of the show. Marianne has a little bit more about Sachs Bridge because she's like the keeper of all creepy stuff. And our skeptic and our tour guide. And go ahead.
I love collecting samples of things, something in my
nature.
nature. So last night after we did the cigarette thing, replicating the video.
Did we say who the video thought we were talking to? Tennessee.
He mentioned that it was someone from Tennessee Regiment. So they call them Tennessee.
The Tennessee Volunteers. Yep.
Yes. But I
got a couple
collected
more shots of whiskey, so I'm good to go.
I collected one of the cigarettes that we used in last night's experiment, so we'll have that available for us to take a look at later. I don't know why we'd want to, but I thought it was important to collect it.
So we can get some ghost DNA.
Oh, okay.
Ectoplasm. Send it off to Ray and Egon.
Plus, we don't really want to, litter or anything, so we should have collected those. So we collected our cigarette.
All right. Well, today's adventure, we went. Of course, we have to. We went and hit some cemeteries. One of which, if you come to Gettysburg, you absolutely, positively have to go to, and that's the Soldiers National Cemetery. Very sombering place. Kind of puts into perspective the size of the battle that took place here. Once you're in the small town of Gettysburg, and then go up and see just the total number of burials that took place there,
and the number of unknowns,
and number of it's very sombering. There are rangers that are tour guides and a wealth of information as far as historical about the battle and about the cemetery. Also, for those of you who don't know, this is actually the location of where Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. Not actually in the cemetery, but that's where the people who came to listen to him gathered, and he was here to dedicate the National Cemetery. So, Marianne, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the cemetery?
About the cemetery itself? Well, when you walk into the cemetery from the street, to the left, you'll see a platform. They call it the rostrum, and it is a location where most people, when they come in, they think this is where the Gettysburg Address was held, because it's a pergola, basically.
And it's across from the monument.
It's right across from the monument for the memorial for the Lincoln Gettysburg Address. And so most people think that's it. And it's not. But what's really cool about it, and that I love about it, is that there's not really a floor on there. It's grass. So when you walk in there, and you can walk up on it if you want to, there's grass on there. It's not really any planks or bricks or anything. I think that's really cool. And I think it was 6 of our presidents.
Between all of us, we probably got about 98 pictures of it. So we'll be posting that later.
Yeah, but I think it's 6 of our other presidents, not Lincoln, but of our other presidents who did perform Memorial Day speeches on that platform. So that's really another very cool piece of history that you get to see right there. Then you kind of move around and you see some of the different monuments and some cannons from different areas of the battles. And then you get to the Soldiers National Memorial. And around it, in arcs, doing half circle arc around the monument, you actually have all the over 3,500 Gettysburg soldiers who were killed in battle here. And they're separated by their state, if they were able to identify them. And a minute ago, I kind of mentioned that there were a lot of unknowns, and still to this day, there's a lot of individuals who are unknown. But if you remember, back in those days, they didn't have dog tags. They didn't have anything really to identify them. So if they couldn't figure out by their uniform or a picture or something that was on their person that identified a letter home that had their name in it or something like that, they didn't know who they were. And so they're actually in spots that are listed as unknowns. And it's kind of very sobering, but it's also nice to see that they have them all laid out. If they know their names, they have them on the placards at each of the soldiers' resting places. They are buried 4 feet deep in pine boxes, and they are buried shoulder to shoulder as they were in battle.
And they are all Union soldiers.
Those are all Union.
The Confederate soldiers, their parents came and claimed their bodies, or their bodies were taken and shipped home
Or some of them are still buried in shallow graves around the town.
Where they fell.
Right. So.
I kind of snickered there, but I thought you were going to tell your little story when we were leaving about you asked the ranger. You asked the ranger if there was any Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers, and
I told him, hey, well, I understand. I guess to the victor go the spoils.
Yeah.
And you know.
Yeah, they didn't. They don't have like a real great sense of humor.
Yeah, they didn't appreciate my sense of humor too much.
But
I was laughing. I thought it was hilarious.
They warmed up to me. You
but
know,
yeah.
they got me. But you got to remember these people. They get asked a lot of questions, and it's
wealth of knowledge, though.
And,
I give these people credit.
And it's free. So you know when you go in and you see them. Take advantage of the tours that they give. Take advantage of asking the questions. It doesn't cost you anything. And it's their job to make sure that the people that do come are respectful.
Right. And so, on that note, we are, for those of you who don't know, a group from Ohio. And so we, of course, spent some time at the Ohio section of the Soldiers National Memorial.
What was it, 173 soldiers from Ohio?
I would have to look at my photo. I have a picture that says how many.
Each one where the states are, it tells you how many soldiers are actually buried in. And I think Ohio was amongst the, besides Pennsylvania, but I think Ohio had 173.
We'll double check that note.
Something like that.
Have that in the third section.
It's a large number compared to some of the other states.
But one of the important, well, they're all important. But one of the people that are buried in the Ohio section who died at the Battle of Gettysburg is someone who is related to someone who was very important in our United States. Sean, did you want to tell them a little bit about that one?
No, you're doing well.
I stick on my tour guide speech here.
I know the answer. It's right here on my notes. She's actually talking about President Nixon. There is a picture, we've seen it, of President Nixon came to the National Cemetery. And he went to the grave of his great-grandfather, which is George Nixon from Ohio. He died July 10th.
Yes.
Was wounded, which would be the second day, July 2nd. So he passed away in one of the field hospitals, most likely. And I can't read the rest of your writing. So, but there's a picture of when President Nixon actually came to the National Cemetery to that spot.
Right.
I think he placed a wreath.
Yeah. So we made sure that we pointed it out because some of the others in our group hadn't been there. So we made sure we showed it off to them, said hello.
Yeah, and I mean, it was such a horrific time. Everything that was going on, and when you stop and you think that you can see the magnitude by looking at the Union graves, and then when you think that the wagons carrying the wounded Confederate soldiers back to home with Robert Lee measured 16 miles long. And these people were dying along the way and being transported home. If you could just imagine 16 miles, it's just amazing.
That's long.
And that was just the Confederates. That there was just as many wounded on the Union side. So a lot of people's lives were changed after, besides the ones that were just buried there.
That's right. Now, located right next to the National Soldier Cemetery is Evergreen Cemetery, which is the Gettysburg City Cemetery. There's actually an iron fence that separates the two, which wasn't there back then. And within Evergreen Cemetery is the position of where they actually had the platform for the dedication. A lot of people call it the Gettysburg Address. It was the dedication of the National Cemetery. It's just been termed the Gettysburg Address, which was Lincoln's speech. And we actually went to that location, and we did a little test there.
Yes.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, we went and we compared a picture that we had of the Gettysburg Address time during the dedication ceremony, and we tried to pinpoint the location based on the gatehouse of Evergreen Cemetery. And so we went over, we tried to judge. I think we pretty close. I mean, nobody's going to know for sure, but based on the picture, I think we got a pretty decent location. And what we did was we went ahead and got together, and I read the Gettysburg Address. And so we kind of listened to the Gettysburg Address.
Yes.
I wanted to do that. I don't know why. I felt compelled to read the Gettysburg Address on the spot where Lincoln had done
but
that.
we were recording an EVP.
And the Gettysburg Address, I mean, and she did a fine impersonation of Abraham Lincoln, but minus the stovepipe hat and the beard, of course. But we went over there, and it's interesting. Everybody hears about the Gettysburg Address, but to know that Abraham Lincoln was just an afterthought to be invited. He was just invited as a courtesy. He wasn't even the key speaker.
No.
The key speaker spoke for 2 hours, and nobody remembers anything about him.
Right. His name was Everett. Yes, Mr. Everett. He was one of the renowned orators of the time period. And so everybody was just thrilled that he was going to come and listen to him. And nobody remembers his speech. And
barely remembers that.
And here's
Lincoln,
this
2-minute speech.
Little backwood Illinois lawyer who got elected president, and he put together this little speech all on his own, and it only lasted 2 minutes, and that was it. And it turned out to be one of the greatest speeches of all time.
Very renowned.
Now, also buried in that cemetery is Miss
Mary Virginia.
Mary
Virginia is her real name.
Jenny Wade, you guys, if you're amongst the paranormal group and whatever, let's say if you're, we got to come up with a term for that, but if you watch Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or any of those shows, you know about the Jenny Wade house in Gettysburg. She was the only civilian killed during the Battle of Gettysburg. She is buried in Evergreen Cemetery and has a United States flag flying over her grave. Is only one of 2 women in the United States that has a United States flag flying over her grave 24 hours. The other person is Betsy Ross. So we went to her grave as well and got some pictures and paid our respects and things of that nature. But
we'll have more on her story later.
Yeah, we got a little bit more on Jenny Wade later. But what did you guys think about both of those cemeteries? I know it's a little different going, when things start clicking in and you see the monuments and the cannons and you see what you're actually looking at. It starts to become sombering, and it's not like some of these other older cemeteries that we go to because you're starting to put stories together. But what do you guys think?
It was a very sombering place.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that this all happened, and it didn't happen. This war didn't happen because it happened because of states' rights as opposed to more rights being used by the government.
And I think all of us on the team here, we come from small towns. I mean, I could just imagine, sitting at home and getting word that, hey, they're coming,
and that's pretty much what happened here.
Right here in Gettysburg, it was mostly women and children because the men were out fighting, and they get word that Confederates are on their way and Unions coming in and batten down the hatches. Man, they're going to go at it. This is like the major battle on northern soil, and it would just be mind blowing.
Yeah, you're sitting in your living room, and next thing you know, you got a chip being blown out of the corner of your bricks by a cannonball, or there's a bullet coming in and smacking your windowsill or coming through the window and hitting the door, and it's just amazing to try to figure out, how it would have been to live in that time.
Yeah.
There is one person who's buried in Evergreen Cemetery that I know specifically that I want to find his grave. And I looked around today and I didn't find it. So if anybody out there knows, type it in and let me know. But I'm looking for the exact location of Johnston Jack Skelly, his grave. It's supposed to be somewhere near Jenny Wade's.
We looked for it.
We didn't find it. But that was actually Jenny's fiance.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Childhood friend, definitely.
Definitely, yes. So. But his grave is supposed to be somewhere right near hers, but we weren't able to find it today. So if anybody knows specifically, please put it in the comments so we can go there and see that before we leave.
Yep.
Well, it's about time. I'm getting the high sign. I think we went over there a little bit, but we're broadcasting live here. So if you have any questions about what we're talking about here or Gettysburg in general, paranormal, anything, go ahead. Please leave a comment. When we come back after break, we're going to do our wrap-up section and tell you what we got going on tonight and answer some of your questions. And I think
that'll tie it up.
On the Dark Shadow Ghost Tours AfterTour 2015. Gettysburg edition. Yes.
All right, so we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay, we are back with Dark Shadow Ghost Tours AfterTour Gettysburg, Sach. Jesus,
2015.
Sachsbridge, Soldiers National Cemetery, and Evergreen Cemetery.
Thank you. We need like cue cards or something. All right, Andrea did a little research for us. How many was in Ohio? 131.
Yes, she nicely went back through our photos from the day, and she got that number for us. So excellent job. Thank you, Andrea.
Yes.
So 131 Ohio soldiers.
That's right. Okay, so if you don't get anything from this episode, one thing I want to instill into your mind is the thinking of the people who actually lived here in Gettysburg. I mean, it was tragic enough with the soldiers and conflict and the amount of soldiers that were here fighting and deaths and injuries and things like that. But the people who actually lived here in town that had to deal with that, not only before the battle, during the battle, but after the battle, you can just imagine the number one, just the smell and the carnage. And they say that the streets ran red with blood. I mean, the battle did not just take place in the battlefields. If you're here and go on any tours or read a book or watch any videos, it was throughout the entire area, especially in town. A lot of buildings that were here are riddled with bullet holes and cannonball fire and things like that.
There's reports in letters that people have found that were written to their relatives where they wrote about how they were, in their basements and the soldiers were on the two sides of their house and they would fire each other through their house.
And that's exactly what happened to Jenny Wade. Her family got caught in the middle and she was killed. But there's another story about that ties to Evergreen Cemetery, and that's about Elizabeth Thorne. Mary, you want to tell us a little bit about her?
Sure. She's fantastic if you ask any woman who's ever been pregnant. I've never had that experience, but Elizabeth Thorne was married to Peter Thorne, who was the superintendent of Evergreen Cemetery at the time of the 1800s. And he joined up with the military for the Union cause. And he left his wife, Elizabeth, in charge of the cemetery while he went off to war. She was actually in charge of it from 1862 to 1865, where she was the caretaker, basically, for the cemetery. And after the Battle of Gettysburg,
Now, if you people think she's like super smart, she's reading notes.
Well, some of it I know. I didn't know what year it was.
She's going off. I'm like, whoa. This is, then I saw she had notes. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But this part I know.
We're alive.
After the Battle of Gettysburg itself. After the Battle of Gettysburg itself.
Tell
91. Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant, and she went out and she dug the graves for and buried 91 soldiers
6 months pregnant
while she was 6 months pregnant.
On her own.
On her own. There's some theory of whether her elderly father helped her a little bit, but 91 graves to dig by hand because they didn't have the technology we have today.
Yeah, they didn't have a backbone.
Yeah, so 91 graves. They say it's in the rockiest portion of the cemetery is where she was actually doing this digging. 6 months pregnant.
Tough one.
Yes. So outside
do you know how many kids she had?
I don't know how many kids she had. I know she has at least
That's a good question.
One. I know she had at least one. But there's a monument to her at the front of Evergreen Cemetery now, and there's no placard that says this is her. You know it, but it's a woman. You can tell she's pregnant, and she's got a shovel she's holding. So it's a monument to Elizabeth and all the work that she put into Evergreen Cemetery right there after the battle. So, and she lived right in the gatehouse. So in the gatehouse out front, which is still here today and was there during the time of the battle, and you can see in the pictures of the Gettysburg Address, she lived in the gatehouse with her husband and then eventually her child or children. I'll have to look up how many children she had. But they lived in that gatehouse, and so that's where they have their offices at today for the Evergreen Cemetery is right in the gatehouse where she lived. And I think she was her family was the first to live in the gatehouse, if I'm not mistaken. So
very cool.
Yes, definitely a tough woman.
Yes, I don't think I'd run into her. Would you? No. 91 graves.
She's got to be an expert with a damn shovel. I mean, she slapped me in the head.
I was part of a dig, an archaeological dig, where we moved 117 bodies from a cemetery from 1804. And let me tell you, I was digging. They took off the top 4 feet with a backhoe when we did it, and then we dug the rest of the way down by hand. And let me tell you, it's not easy.
And he's messing with this woman.
I'm crazy.
So, anyway, so that's a little bit about Evergreen Cemetery, and
all right. Do we have
the next
any questions?
You gonna tell them about tonight?
We'll tell them after we answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Our first question: what made you guys decide to go to Gettysburg? It's from Ken in Georgia.
Well, that could vary. What part of Georgia?
Stop it! Why did we come to Gettysburg? There's a lot of history here, and I know I love history. I love architecture, the buildings and things, especially the old buildings. And then, of course, Gettysburg is an extremely haunted area.
What's that place too? It's got good ice cream.
Mr. G's Ice Cream. If you come here, it's across the street from Farnsworth House. Plug for Mr. G's Ice Cream. It's fantastic.
That's why.
I love Mr. G's Ice Cream. It's really good. And Mr. G's building has some paranormal claims too. Just saying.
But
we have to have some ice cream.
Like Sean said at the beginning, Gettysburg for a paranormal group is like the Holy Grail.
It's Graceland for the paranormal. Yeah, you have to come here because there are ghosts everywhere. I'm not one particular location. You're talking the entire town. Yeah. You got Farnsworth House. You got Sach's Bridge. You got the battlefields. You got Dobbin's house. You got Jenny Wade's house. What's the ice cream place?
Mr. G's.
Mr. G's.
Yeah, the orphanage.
David Will's house. The college. The Grove.
The 1863 hotel.
Mm-hmm.
They're everywhere. And there's ghost tours. It's an industry.
And a lot of the homes.
If you haven't been out investigating, you want to get into it, come take a ghost tour.
Yeah. A lot of the homes and a lot of the churches and just buildings here in town, they were used as field hospitals. The trauma that went through this town is really what makes it really, really an important place to visit.
What else we have?
Where are you staying? Gloria and Virginia would like to know.
Oh, you like our building today, huh?
We're actually staying in a 1900-ish. This house wasn't here during the battle, but we're staying in a 40-acre farmhouse. There's 10 of us here, and it's part of the property that is on the battlefields. Saturday night, we're going to be doing a live investigation of where we're staying in the battlefields and broadcasting our DVDs and stuff like that. But we're not going to give the actual address where we're at.
Not that we don't want visitors,
but it's actually a very, very cool place. I mean, it's very relaxing and peaceful, and we're having a great time so far.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
All right, those were fairly easy.
All right, so tonight we actually have 2 investigations scheduled. The team is actually going to go out to Jenny Wade's house.
Well, actually, not her house, but where she died.
Okay, sorry. They call it the Jenny Wade house, but we're going to go do a 2-hour investigation there, and we're doing a 2-hour investigation at the Children's Orphanage or National Soldiers Museum. It's not called that now, but actually that building. So tomorrow night, if you tune in, we're going to give you an update of that investigation, our personal experiences, and what we have planned for tomorrow during the day. We're going to try to hit some spots during the day if the weather hangs out, or it's actually
it's raining right now.
That doesn't matter for the 2 places that we're going. So we got that coming up for tomorrow night. Another live broadcast. We're going to try to start around 8 o'clock tomorrow. And then we're going to wrap up Saturday night with probably about a 4-hour investigation of where we're staying here, where we'll broadcast our DVRs live, and then break in a couple times and kind of tell you what we ran into and things like that. So before we go, this is the crazy lady's idea. So I have
all kinds of good ideas these days.
Sleep in peace. But we want to bring in some of the other team members.
The rest of our team, come on in.
Come on in behind.
Just for a quick second, say hi. Come on in behind us.
Come on.
Come hang out by Glenn.
Which Glenn?
Kay's not coming in. She's like, no, I'm not.
She's camera shy.
My mom, Kay, you can find her on Facebook.
So this is Andrea giving bunny ears and antlers.
Last episode, we were picking on her pretty good.
And this one that just came in now, that's Lee. She's been working our tech stuff.
Yep.
And coming in now is
Laura.
We're actually broadcasting from her bedroom.
Yeah.
She sleeps under Glenn.
She sleeps under the blanket Glenn back there.
Laura, did you wrap up in Glenn last night? No.
Oh man.
All right. So
leave it in your leave it in the comments if you'd like to hear more about that.
So this is the first of 3 episodes that we're going to do live from Gettysburg. So tune in tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So from all of us here at Dark Shadow Ghost Tours, we wish you a good night and happy hunting.
Good night.
Good night.
See you tomorrow.
You.